It's definitely been something that's close to many people's hearts, and I think that without it, we wouldn't really be able to see the progress and the vision within our city come true.
It's not just one person's vision, it's not just one side of town's vision, it's the entire community coming together and saying, this is how we want to see our community.
SA2020 is critical to San Antonio for two key reasons. One is that it sets a vision for the community, a vision about what we'd like this community to be and continue to be for the future. But secondly, and probably most importantly, it inspires all of us to act.
It's really great to have an organization that pulls together people from all different parts of the city and helps them find common goals, common ways to volunteer, ways to have fun together, ways to join in fitness activities together.
I think San Antonio's future is going to be so much easier to attain if we're all pushing towards a common goal.
The community came together and articulated a vision and specific benchmarks.
It's very important to track where we've been and look at where we're going.
We know that we can become one of the healthiest cities in America. We are on the move, literally and figuratively.
SA2020 is important to me because I care about certain
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just in case you didn't hear it, my name is Mike Gallagher. I'm the councilman for District 10, and I want you all to know you're in District 10 right now, so welcome. No, we are so proud to have Morgan's Wonderland in our district and in San Antonio. What a great facility. When Gordon Hartman first put this all together, one of the best things that happened when he talked to everybody about it, he had a dream on what this could look like, and it has really come to fruition. I got to visit with him a couple of months ago. We went to the entrance. We took a look at the maps that are out there on the wall. You would not believe what you'll see there, and it's something to make everybody in San Antonio very, very proud. On one side is a map of the United States. It shows where people from all over the United States have come right here to Morgan's Wonderland. And Gordon said to me, and turn around and look on the other side. There's a map of the world. People from all over the world have come here to San Antonio, come here to Morgan's Wonderland. As a part of SA 2020, we have to look ahead. We have to have greater San Antonio 2020 to think about the entire city on what can be done. This area will be one of those things. Have you ever heard of Major League Soccer? When you go out back to your cars to get in, look at that great big Toyota Stadium and think, one day we're going to have a Major League Soccer team right here next to Morgan's Wonderland helping everybody out. Today, we get to talk about the future of San Antonio, and I'm very proud to have Daryl explain it to us. Daryl.
Thank you, Councilman. I really appreciate that. And we are pleased to be in District 10. Councilman is right. SA 2020 belongs to every single San Antonio, north, south, east, and west. SA 2020 belongs to you, and we're happy to be in District 10. And again, Gordon, thank you so much for hosting us. Wow, just looking across this room, I really am overcome with a bit of emotion because it reminds me of where we all began together back in the early fall of 2010. Many of you were in that room when we decided that we were going to be bold as a city, when we decided that we were going to be fearless, and that we were going to, most importantly, be serious about where we were going. We were going to be serious about what we wanted to have show up in this community that we raise our children in, that we start and run businesses in, the cities where we worship, cities where we enjoy our neighbors. We were going to be serious about where we were winding up. And I just get excited just looking at all these faces. Many of them have been around since 2010. Some are new. But I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for your continued commitment to the work that we're doing together on behalf of this great city. We don't get to the end. We're going to talk a lot about beginnings and endings today. Data, which we're going to talk about how we're doing an XYZ indicator. That's the beginning. The end is something more important. But we don't get there without every single one of you committing every single bit of horsepower that you have, brain power that you have, energy, love, and passion for your city to get there. I really mean that. That's what's going to make San Antonio, again, rise to one of the greatest cities by anybody's measure in all the United States. So I'd love to thank every single one of you who are here. I know we've got people who are steering committee members from the very, very early days of SA 2020. We've got great appointed and elected officials who help drive policy and help support the work that we're doing, civic and neighborhood leaders who get that stuff done every single day on the ground, and everyday San Antonians like me and you who love our city and are committed to doing the volunteer work to get there. So you all are SA 2020. I do, though, want to call attention to some special people who have helped make this day possible, and those are our lead sponsors. Molly?
Why, thank you, Daryl. In fact, here we go. Our very first lead sponsor is Chase. That's right. We recently invested in our talent pipeline work, which examines and offers solutions to the skills gap in our workforce. Chase is represented here by Morris Camp, president of the San Antonio region. Thank you, Chase. The City of San Antonio Center City Development Office and the Economic Development Department are our other lead sponsors. These are both incredibly important SA 2020 partners in both downtown development and economic competitiveness. Back to you, Daryl.
Thank you, Molly. You guys can kind of get a sense for how this day is going to go. It won't be your normal rubber chicken luncheon, I promise. Well, we talked a little bit about beginnings and endings, and before we get into the rest of the program, I mentioned that data, we're releasing a report this afternoon after we're done today that will tell us how we've done in those 60 areas that we as a community decided we wanted to measure and gauge our success and hold ourselves accountable to. From the areas of education to transportation to downtown to family well-being to community safety, civic engagement, neighborhoods, all those areas we decided we were going to hold ourselves accountable for. And we're going to talk about how we're doing. The good, the beautiful, the not so attractive, all those things we're going to be talking about. But I do want to make it clear that, and you know this, the data is just the beginning. That's just the beginning of the story. The end is a city where 80% of our third graders are reading at a level that suggests that they will have every opportunity of academic success. And we are not there today. That is our end. The end is a city where the poverty rate in this great city is reduced by 50% by the end of this decade. That's the end. The end is a city where 80% of our young people, by the time they finish high school, are going on into post-secondary education, whatever that may be, but they're continuing to pursue their careers, their skill development, so that they can have every opportunity to be productive and to care for their families the way they love to, and drive this economy. Those are just examples of what the end are. But there are also some examples of progress in this city that we're already going to see, and we'll talk about those today, where we're actually moving the needle together and making good progress. Some areas we've already knocked it out of the park. And then there are other areas where the picture isn't so rosy. There are a lot of other areas where we know that if we continue doing what we're doing, if we continue to invest our resources the way we have, if we continue to be maybe a little bit slower on the take, then we won't hit those SA 2020 goals, and our children will suffer. When we started SA 2020, there were 12,500 babies that were born that year. Actually, just around the time that we started SA 2020. By the time we finish in the year 2020, they're going to be out of diapers and in the 4th and 5th grades. The trajectory that they are on, whether they're ready to be successful in a future academic career, whether they're knocking out of the park in 3rd grade reading, is going to be wholly up to us. We have a lot of work to do. Double down on the stuff we need to work harder on and recommit ourselves to the things we're doing well on. So data is the beginning. You and me and about 1 million other of our best friends is the middle, and SA 2020 is the end. Now we're going to play some games. Thank you all for being here.
In fact, we have our very first game time, and Gunther, my lucky, faithful assistant, I'll call you an assistant, would you grab somebody to play our very first game? Right there.
Anybody?
Anybody at all. We got the first one. Grab them.
I'm looking.
Here we go. First game. Boom.
Would
Put
you
a
like to play a
microphone.
game?
Oh, yeah. That person's playing a game. Who is it? I can't see. Hi. Can you please tell us your name? Speak into the microphone. Sylvia. Hi, Sylvia. Very first game time. I know it's very, very difficult. Please look up at the board. It is a true or false question. In order to achieve our collective vision, we will all need to work together. Dun, 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 dun. True? Excellent job! It's a very difficult what we do here. Sylvia, you've just won 2 tickets to the Playhouse San Antonio and 2 tickets to the San Antonio Museum of Art. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. See how easy that is? Coming up next, we are going to talk about a very, very cool thing, a great strategy that is actually helping us move the needle in access to healthcare. And to get us started, let's bring to the table, or the floor, or the stage, Judge Nelson Wolff.
Well, thanks to 2020, Darrell Burr's done a great job. Just look at everybody out here. Tremendous input into the community, and we thank you. One of the greatest responsibilities that the County Commissioners Court has to do, that's to provide the necessary resources for our healthcare system. We have the Bexar County healthcare system, the hospital district, doing business as university. In 2008, we voted to put some $900 million into the system. If you go out to the medical facility, you'll see that brand new spanking tower, trauma tower, and if you go downtown, you'll see a 6-story clinical building as well as an ambulatory center. So our focus is on health. We had a major conference just this last Monday where we'll be going to the legislature to ask them to do a number of things. One of the things we did through the summer, I spent a great deal of time on this. We had 40 different organizations working on this effort. That was to go out and get people to enroll in the Affordable Health Care Plan. Whether you supported that or not didn't matter. It was there. Can we get people to enroll? We had 76,000 people in Bexar County enroll in that program. And it was a tremendous, tremendous step forward. Out of those 40 organizations, we had one lady that really did a great deal of work, and that's Andrea Guajardo, Director at Community Health at Christus Santa Rosa. I believe Andrea is going to say a few words. Here she is. Bring her on.
Thank you. You're sounding like Monty Hall. Hi, I am Andrea Guajardo. I am Director of Community Health for Christus Santa Rosa, and I was also one of the leads on the Enroll SA Coalition last year during last open enrollment. I wish I could tell you that on October 1st, when open enrollment started, that we had it all figured out. We knew exactly what we were doing, and Enroll SA was that an actual thing. It was not. We had no idea what we were doing, but we had a large group of community stakeholders that said, we need to do something. And that's kind of the MO of San Antonio. I think several years ago when we had some high-profile child abuse cases, everybody got together and said, let's do something, and we did something. Even SA2020 is an example of that. Let's do something, and then you're all here today. And that's exactly how Enroll SA got started. And I like to say that SA2020 doesn't just talk about community collaboration. They are a community collaborator. Molly Cox, Jean Russell, Jessica Rios, Brittany Sharnsky were instrumental partners in helping us create that momentum last year and doing what we did. As Judge said, 76,000 people enrolled. That is actually 166% of the goal that was set for us by HHS. Thank you. It's actually, we were the highest percent to goal of any city in Texas. And what we created was a process for enrollment that starts with screening, registration, education, enrollment that took advantage of the strengths and resources of every single community partner. Some people were really great at just doing enrollment, some people were really great at doing education, and some were support organizations like Christus. But when we all got together, the collective impact was amazing. And we have continued that collective impact and are planning for next year. And I know that it's very important to SA2020 because it directly addresses the access to care indicator. But I would also offer that it addresses a lot of the other indicators like economic competitiveness. A healthy workforce is a productive workforce. Education, when people are healthy, they're in school, graduation rates go up. So I think Enroll SA is just another example of how one part of the population being healthy can affect the rest of us. So I think that's it, Molly. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Andrea. And she does talk about the very fact that access to healthcare is the start of a healthy community, and we have created a culture of health here in San Antonio.
Last July 2013, I turned 40 years old, and I was weighing nearly 200 pounds. And at that time, I would go to work every day. By the time I got 2013, I turned 40 years old, and I was weighing nearly 200 pounds. And at that time, I would go to work every day. By the time I got home from work, I just wanted to get in my pajamas and sleep. I was always very lethargic and fatigued and tired. And I realized that I just couldn't live that way anymore. So I decided that it was time to change my life and my eating habits and my exercise routines. I think that the city itself, especially like the different city council individuals, men and women, are focused on having a fit day for their district and getting folks out there and trying to make everything free and easy for them.
The City of San Antonio, really the park system, has really looked at really changing the way we view parks. While we think passive green space is important, active green space is just as important. And I think what we're hearing from the community, not only through the park system, but through part of SA2020, is people want to go to the parks, but they want to do something in the parks. So really what we've done is offer all kind of programming to really not only draw people to the parks, but get them an activity, get them maybe trying something they've never tried before.
You need a lot of free opportunities across the community, so Ciclovia has been a big driver, I think, of a culture of health here in San Antonio. Things like Fitness in the Park, Fit Pass SA, the Fit Family Challenge, to help create accessible, free opportunities, and mostly for families to participate together.
Now when we look at let's have San Antonio to be the healthiest city in the country, we can't just do it by health. We got to actually look at all these other indicators. And the only organization that really is looking at that and is focusing on these other indicators is SA2020. And that's why I look at that as the prime example of why we're getting so much change in San Antonio. When we looked at 2010, our obesity was 35% of the population was obese. However, in 2012, that number came to 28%.
It's been about a little over a year now, so a year and 2 months, and I've lost 50 pounds. Just commit to it, do it, you'll feel great.
And the key with SA2020 is many of the nonprofit organizations, many foundations are working in hand with SA2020. This has made a major impact here in the city of San Antonio.
In order for a community to really move the needle on health for its citizens, you have to create a culture of health. Be active every day, eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can. You can never have enough. And the third thing is drink as much water as you possibly can.
Please welcome Patty Radel.
Thank you. When I was asked back in February what I thought would be the biggest challenge or the most common excuse people would use when asked not to use bottled water, I said convenience. People are not going to want to give up the convenience of using bottled water. But what we know about for our health is we need to drink more water. We need to hydrate. But if you follow the formula of 8 ounces 8 times a day, which is not necessarily scientific, but is easy to remember, that would mean 4 of these 16-ounce bottles a day. And if each of us drank that much water out of plastic bottles each day, that would be 1,460 bottles, plastic bottles, that we would be consuming. And the Earth Policy Institute tells us that plastic bottles are responsible for 2 million tons of trash that goes into our landfills in the United States each year. That's 4 billion pounds of plastic bottles going into our landfill. And as Molly gave us a very concrete suggestion in San Antonio terms, that is like taking the AT&T Center, filling it to capacity 1,324 times with total capacity of 18,500 people to get to the number of people consuming enough bottles to reach that 4 billion pounds of plastic bottle number. That's a lot of plastic bottles. Now, we know that that San Antonio has said we want to be more careful in residential waste, to cut back residential waste, but to increase our recycling. So what do we do in regards to plastic water bottles? We understand that that's a lot of water bottles going into our land, but we also know we need to consume water. So if we're going to drink the water and also meet the challenge to pull back on our use of water in San Antonio as we challenge ourselves to drink more water, are we going to affect the rate of reducing our water in San Antonio? No, there's lots of ways to save our water, whether it's turning off the water when we're brushing our teeth, maybe not watering the grass as much, although that's been cut back quite a bit for us already, or taking a shorter shower, or stop using plastic bottles. The water that is in this bottle, it takes 3 times the same amount of water to produce this bottle of water. So if you stop using plastic bottles, you'll be saving 3 times the amount of water that's in that bottle. I know a lot of you are in situations where you decide what you're going to serve at your events. Let's stop together using plastic bottles. And take a look at the container on your table with the straw. That's yours. Take it, use it over and over and over again. And if you already have a container that you use over and over again, please give that one to somebody that you know needs to stop using plastic bottles. We can do this. It will make a difference. Thank you.
It's time. SA 2020 game time. Gunther, find me a victim, player.
Would anybody like to play a game?
Stick a microphone
Any
in front
hands?
of
Any
Smeltzer's
hands?
face. Smeltzer,
No?
right there. Get Smeltzer.
Oh, it's a Smeltzer.
Smeltzer!
I found one.
Hey, Smeltzer, get ready. SA 2020 trivia, it's open-ended. What types of activities are good for your health?
Running, swimming, kayaking down the Mission Reach, jogging, frisbee, weightlifting, drinking water.
Look at you paying attention, Smeltzer. Well done. Winner, winner, healthy dinner. Hey, Smeltzer, don't forget, we've got them back here for you. 2 tickets to Youth Orchestra San Antonio, 2 tickets to the San Antonio Botanical Gardens, and 2 tickets to Morgan's Wonderland. If you have not been inside here, you should. It's amazing. Well done, Smeltzer. Coming up next, we're bringing to the stage a man who knows a little something about civic engagement. In fact, he's turned District 8 into a civic engagement mecca. Representative Ron Nierenberg.
Thanks, Molly. Good afternoon, everybody. It is a civic engagement mecca in District 8 because I'm proud to say 17% of all ballots cast in the 2013 election were cast in District 8. But I'm here to tell you about something that isn't so fun in San Antonio. I think you all know what that is. Something that's foundational to the success of our community, something even more foundational than our water security, and that is civic engagement. Why is civic engagement important? It's because everything that we do relies on people like you being engaged. More so, people who aren't like you. People who don't take the time to get out, meet their neighbors, go talk about the issues, and ultimately get to the polls and cast a vote to put people in position to carry out those desires, to carry out the asks, and carry out the vision that we have for our community. It was a great thing a few years ago now, to watch the SA 2020 process unfold, because thousands of our neighbors came out and created a community vision, something that we can all own, something that we can all get behind, and something that will make our city great. But it makes no difference to us to have a vision without some implementation. And in order to have that implementation, we need to have decision makers in office that can be held accountable to that vision. So where are we today? We set a goal in SA 2020, knowing that in our baseline numbers, only 7%, less than 7% of our community of registered voters came out to vote for the very critical positions of city council and of mayor. Less than 7% of people who have a voter registration card would go to the polls and use it and cast a ballot for mayor or city council. That's devastating to the future of our community. We set a goal during the SA2020 process, a meager goal, to raise that number 2% every 2 years. Today, after our baseline numbers, where are we? We're flat. We haven't made a difference. Why is that? Well, we can spin our wheels and think about that, and I have my own personal opinions about it. I think we ruminate over that on City Council. Starts with making government relevant to people. Talking to your kids about why it's important that they pay attention to the news, why it's important that they talk to their parents about what's going on in their community, why they ask the question, what's wrong in my neighborhood and how are we going to fix it? But one person in this audience I think knows better than anyone about what it's going to take to move the needle on civic engagement. And that's someone I'd like to bring to the stage now, Lindsay Rodriguez, who is the Community Affairs Manager at Yelp San Antonio. She spent her previous career as a teacher getting kids to be excited about voting, so much so that when they turned 18, one of the great passages, one of the rites of passage that she would put them through is to get a voter registration card. Things like that matter. And so I'm here to introduce Lindsay Rodriguez, and she's going to help us figure out how we're going to crack the nut on civic engagement. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming out today. This is a really great example of civic engagement, the fact that you're all here today. So congratulations. The first thing that I want to start with is why I vote. So I vote because I think that it's really important to give my feedback and my opinions on what is happening in my city. I vote because study after study shows that usually people that are most affected by the laws that are passed are the ones that have the most barriers put in front of them to voting. And I vote because it's not just a privilege or a right, it's my responsibility to get up there and tell people how I want to see my city run and the way that I think that it can improve. So, because we're not exactly where we want to be yet on civic engagement and voter registration here in San Antonio, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing to try and move that needle. The first of which is the Voter Turnout Action Network, which is led by the UTSA College of Public Policy, is working to target each precinct in every city council district that has the lowest voter turnout rate so that prioritization can happen in those particular areas. We need to find out where people aren't voting and why they're not voting and try and help them vote. The second thing that we're seeing is at my alma mater, the University of the Incarnate Word, their senior design class is working on a citywide get out the vote bilingual type of campaign with SA2020 so that we can really target people to get out for those elections. We're also seeing all kinds of efforts on every single college campus around the city working to try and register new voters on those college campuses. And one thing that I'm really excited to tell you about today is that SA2020 is working with Yelp to try and increase voter turnout as well as work with the other causes in SA2020. So Yelp, for those of you who don't know, is a mobile app and website that connects locals with great local businesses. It allows them to give feedback, and it allows those decision makers to then try and change or move from there, which to me sounds an awful lot like voting and civic engagement. So it seems like a pretty natural partnership. I want to invite you out on Saturday to come and bring a friend to the Friendly Spot to our voter registration event, because the most important thing that you guys can do, I know that probably the vast majority of you in here are registered to vote already. But studies show that people need an average of 3 reminders before they actually get out to vote. So that can be an email to your family or friends. It can be a campaign sign that's in your yard. It can be inviting your friends to come out to a voter registration event. But you can be one of those 3 reminders that then moves the needle on civic engagement and voter registration moving forward. Thanks.
Brilliant. To be fair, Jody and Steve Newman are here from the Friendly Spot. Just wanted to give them a shout out since they're also hosting us. What? There it is. Hey, nerd up for game number 3. Our final victim, Gunther, is...
I feel like there's probably somebody back here that wants to play.
In the cheap seats?
They're not the cheap seats.
I know, because they're closer to me, really.
He's laughing really hard at me. I feel like he should
grab
do
that
it.
guy then.
Yeah.
All right, here it is.
What's his name?
Oh, yeah, find out his name.
Hi, I'm Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
How are you?
Thanks for playing.
Absolutely.
It's a multiple choice question, Daniel.
Okay.
I like that.
During elections, I should A, vote, B, remind a friend or family member to vote, C, take a friend or family member with me to vote, or D, all of the above.
Is there a 50-50 option?
If you want a phone or friend, we could do that.
I'm going to go all of the above.
You are so smart, Daniel! Daniel, your prize pack is 2 tickets to the Whitty Museum Grossology and a family 4-pack to Magic Theater. Thank you, my friend. That was a rack spacer right there.
In 2000, bold goals for San Antonio to accomplish by the year 2020. And guess what? We're doing it. In some areas, we're seeing great progress. But in others, not so much. Some areas are even moving in the wrong direction. But data, the numbers and percents, only tell the beginning of the story. In our work, SA2020 has learned that there are different kinds of problems. Some are simple, like baking a cake. We know the recipe. We can make it happen pretty quickly. Take reducing police and fire response times, for example. We set a goal. The SAPD and SAFD made some systematic changes and met the target in the first 2 years. Other problems are complex, not just because they're difficult, but because they can take years and many moving parts to fix. There are a lot of variables, and there's no one right way to do it. It's more like an intricate puzzle. Lots of pieces need to connect to create the picture. One of the most complex problems a community can face is poverty. We know this issue underlies many major problems in San Antonio, but there's no one recipe out there to fix poverty. To understand complex problems like poverty, we have to look at all the things that connect around it: educational success, healthcare access, economic opportunity, family safety and stability, to name a few. The SA2020 vision is strong because it encompasses all of these areas, many of which include other complex problems: domestic violence, kindergarten readiness, child abuse, homelessness. Our vision is strong because San Antonio knew that progress wouldn't happen on these bigger, more complex issues unless it happened across the board. And we didn't shy away from the hard issues. We embraced them. Big solutions take big commitments, and San Antonio is good at that. We may not find the perfect recipe, but we can all be pieces to the most amazing puzzle.
And to help us further explain complex problem solution, we bring to the stage CEO of CEOs for Cities. That's a very fancy title, Lee Fisher.
I flew in from Ohio last night, and the reason I did that is that I have the privilege of going to almost a different city in the United States every single week, seeing how they're approaching moving the needle on the success of their city. I wasn't paid to say this. I came for free. But here's what I'm going to tell you. There is no city, and there is no organization in any city that is more impressive and is doing more than SA2020, and that's why I'm here today. I want to tell you a very quick story. My father-in-law was a prisoner of war in World War II. And when he was liberated years later, we often wondered how he survived when younger men and stronger men and healthier men did not, but he would not talk about it. It wasn't until years later that my mother-in-law pulled out of the closet the diary up there that my father-in-law had kept as a prisoner of war. There were two things that jumped out from that diary. First, the 9 children that he would someday raise. He had only been married for about 90 days when he was captured at the Battle of the Bulge. One of those children would someday be my wife. But much more interesting were the intricate pasta recipes from an Italian man who loved to eat but had no idea how to cook. And yet these recipes were so detailed, they were so exquisite, that years later, after he was liberated and came back home, my mother-in-law, who was a great cook, used those recipes to a T, and my father-in-law still didn't know how to cook. So how did he survive? He was able to see beyond the barbed wire, he was able to see beyond the cruelty of the guards, and he was able to see something that too many young men and women don't see: his future. When I served as the Attorney General of my state, Ohio, I traveled to all of Ohio's prisons, and I would meet young men and women who had no vision of their future, not even a vision of next month or next year. And over the years, after running a large nonprofit called the Center for Families and Children, I've come to believe that the greatest single gift you can give a human being, a family, a community, a city, a region, a state, even a nation, is the ability to see your own future even when times are tough. It requires looking at things in new ways, because if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at really do change. And so I challenge all of you to take a look at San Antonio, one of the great historical cities in the world today. But look at it differently. Look at it as if it were a startup. As if you were beginning today to construct San Antonio from scratch. What would you want it to look like? And SA 2020, in a sense, has done that for you. It's helping you chart your future story and looking at it in an entirely different way. Now, all of us know that we're living in a world that comes at lightning speed. And you probably didn't know that there are 7 billion people on the planet. There are 8 billion text messages sent every single day. But how many of you knew that 42% of those text messages are sent by one person, my daughter, Jessica? See, not a single one. I knew it. That has not been tracked by SA 2020, and I challenge them to do that. Wayne Gretzky, when he was asked once, what makes you a great Hall of Fame hockey player, he said, hey, I just learned how to skate where the puck was going, not where the puck is. For San Antonio to be the truly great city that it is destined to be, and in many ways already is, you must skate where the puck is going. Look around corners and see things that no one else sees. Connect dots that no one else sees, because that 2020 plan has a sell-by date. And these days, it's important to understand what's ahead of you even 1 year from now, not just 10 years from now. Now, most of you can't see that cartoon, so I'll do it for you. It's a mother pigeon talking to her baby pigeons above a man sitting on a park bench. And the caption reads, today's lesson is about lessons of opportunity. It's supposed to be funny, and obviously you did not get it. But my point is that you must look at your targets of opportunity, because every city has assets that are distinctive and unique, as does San Antonio. We look at cities from 3 different vantage points. How do you connect? How are you innovative? How are you talented? And how are you distinctive? They spell out the word city. And we believe in something called the power of progress, and it's all throughout SA 2020's work. There's a book called The Progress Principle, and I'll summarize it for you in one sentence. It says that the single most important motivator in any organization, any business, any nonprofit, or for that matter, any human being or any family, is the ability to see meaningful progress in your work. If Daryl got up here today and said, SA 2020 is going to solve poverty, you would not believe him and he would have no credibility. But if Daryl says to you, SA 2020 is going to reduce poverty in San Antonio, not by 20% or 50% right away, but by 1%, you will believe him. And that power of progress is what sustains momentum in the great cities in our country. And so we developed something called city dividends, the economic benefit, the economic dividend of achieving a measurable goal that is within your reach. It's moving the needle on your city's success, and SA 2020 does that better than anyone else. I'm going to give you 3 quick examples. What if you were to increase the level of college completion, the number of people who have a 2-year degree and a 4-year degree in the top 50 cities in this country by just 1%? Let me repeat that. What if you were to increase the number of people who have a college degree in this country in the top 50 cities by just 1%? You know what that would mean? It would mean an increase of $111 billion with a B dollars every year in the average earnings of the people of the United States. And we worked with Daryl and Jean and Molly and their team at SA 2020 to prepare a report, which I think you'll see, if not today, then soon, that shows what that talent dividend will be for San Antonio. Or let's take another example. What if you reduce the number of miles that you drive 1 mile per day over the course of a year? Everybody can relate to that. Just reduce the vehicle miles traveled. What if that happened in the top 50 cities in the country? The result would be, with that just 1 mile per day per one person, it would mean $35 billion in economic savings otherwise spent today on buying a car, owning a car, putting gas in a car. We're not anti-car, we're pro-car, but we're also pro-walk, pro-bike, pro-transit, because the cities in America that are succeeding today are the ones that focus on being able to have a walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly neighborhood. And then the final one, the single greatest issue facing the world today, and Daryl already talked about it, poverty and inequality. And if you decreased poverty in America in the top 50 cities by not 10%, not by 5%, but by 1%, it would mean $31 billion less spent on state and federal money that goes today to anti-poverty programs that could be used for other things to build up America and to build San Antonio. All of this means that you work together. It's called collective impact, but that's just a fancy way of saying that all the sectors tear down the walls, public, private, nonprofit. Doesn't matter what your rank, doesn't matter what your sector, you all work in it together, because too many cities have this problem. They're disconnected, or they operate too often in silos. And we believe that if you're all working together and measuring the progress along the way, that's what SA 2020 does. It's why I'm here today. It's why I believe that 5 years from now, people will say that San Antonio was the city that tore down walls, built bridges, and lit fires, and made San Antonio one of the great cities on the planet Earth. Thank you very much.
Lee, thank you so very, very much. In fact, he mentioned something about a report, the dividends that we're actually going to have, and those will actually be online as of right now. If you went to sa2020.org/progress, you will find every report we talk about today online. I'm walking towards the front to get closer to my friend Jean Russell. I'm coming. Hold on. I'm getting there. I was in the very back. Jean Russell and I have the distinct pleasure of walking us back through what you've heard today, and then also to talk about sort of what we can do moving forward. And we also have the distinct pleasure, I feel like I should sit on the edge of the stage so I'm your size. I like that you're walking slowly like a model. Hello. That's how we go. So we also have the distinct pleasure of walking you through what SA 2020 does on a daily basis, Monday through Sunday, technically. We don't sleep. Ever. Not once. In the last 4 years. You laugh, that's actually true. So we wanted to start it off actually by just giving you sort of an overview of who SA 2020, the nonprofit, is, right? So we have this fantastic thing that's SA 2020, the vision, this sort of North Star, we're all tracking that way, 60 indicators, 11 cause areas, a multitude of sub-indicators, right? So there are so many things going on, and in fact, that's our main business at SA 2020, is measuring progress. And that's what we're doing here today. We committed to measure progress at least annually we would release a report. We are doing that. You can find it online at sa2020.org/progress. We wanted to talk a little bit more about the progress that we're seeing overarchingly. And I'm going to toss to Jean Russell, who's smarter than me.
So one of the things you saw today is that we're seeing some incredible movement on health, which is a complex issue, and that should give us heart in our community for so many other complex issues, but we can also unfold from that some strategies that are really working. You heard from Andrea and Judge Wolf today about Enroll SA, which is a coalition, and we're seeing that happening across the health space. Groups we call action networks. So like the Collaboration to Prevent Teen Pregnancy is another one that's really aligned around the SA2020 goal. And we're seeing the Mayor's Fitness Council, which many of you know has made fitness really top of mind in our city. We're hoping to migrate those strategies to other areas, and we're seeing them in some. You heard about the voter turnout work group, which is working again to activate a community coalition around voter turnout. And SA2020 itself, where we're not seeing that kind of activity, we're coming in and we're helping to create those kind of coalitions. So the Talent Pipeline Task Force is an example of where we're trying to bring together industry and education to really tackle that issue of workforce strategies that cross both sides.
Yeah, so we measure progress across these 60 indicators and these number of sub-indicators in an effort to, as we've been saying today, start the story, right? The beginning of the story is progress, and in fact, what we've launched today, I'm going to keep saying it, sa2020.org/progress. If you go there, you're going to find something a little bit different than you found on our website previous to today. Because we just launched it, which is always enjoyable. It's actually an interactive database that you can actually log into and find trend lines and what's going on within our city among all of those indicators. Again, you're smarter than me. What else will we find there?
Well, you're going to see a different kind of data display that's much more animated, and for the first time ever, we're going to be able to bring to you data that's actually real time. So what our partners have been saying is the data is great, but once a year doesn't really do it for us. How can we really use that data in a way that's actionable? And so we're moving towards, in the future iterations, we'll be able to also map this by geography, offer demographic information, and really let people dig into the data around strategies.
Yeah, so today, when you leave here and you go back to your work, it's a Thursday afternoon, but you've already been gone for a lunch, so you have time that you can just take the rest of the day off, really. It's true. No? Do we have the day off? Okay, we do. If you go to online, sa2020.org/progress, you'll actually be able to log in and find out what indicator, for example, that you're most excited about and what the data is saying around that indicator. Are we seeing progress? What coalitions are actually working in that progress area? Is it moving to get to the rate that we have it? We basically put data into 5 categories at SA2020. Met or exceeded. On track, it's going in the rate that it needs to get us to our 2020 goal. Making progress, so we're seeing some movement, but maybe not fast enough or in the right way that we need to get to our SA2020 goal. Flat or moving backwards, right? And then the final one is in development. What you're going to find is 9 different indicators that don't have any data around them currently, and here's why. Because we actually believed that these indicators, which were developed during a visioning process, were important enough to still try to figure out how to measure. So we're still doing it. We're still trying to figure it all out, and those are there as well, but you'll be able to see those online. So if measuring progress is the beginning of the story, what do we do with that progress once it's measured? Internally, in our offices, we dance a little bit, or a lot. Externally, we use it to provide support to our partners. Jean Russell was talking a little bit earlier about some of our action networks who are really utilizing the data around I guess we can say that there were 3 different types of action networks that we've seen so far. There are the ones that were already going. The San Antonio Teen Pregnancy Prevention Collaborative was already going strong when SA2020 happened, right? What they did was realign themselves towards the SA2020 goal. And in fact, within the first 2 years, they met and exceeded the teen pregnancy goal for the year 2020. That's a shout out and holla to the San Antonio Teen Pregnancy Prevention Collaborative. They're here. I saw some of them. They're all over, which I enjoy. What's great is the fact that they met and exceeded it, which is really cool because we're seeing this across the board. When a goal is met, we stop, right? We all just like go, woohoo, and then everybody goes away. That's not the case so much with the San Antonio Teen Pregnancy Prevention Collaborative. They said reduce by 15%. That's child's play. Let's reduce by 25%. And they're still working towards reducing even more, which is fantastic. The second kind of action network that we've seen is one, as Gene Russell mentioned, P.S., always Gene Russell, always one word. Gene Russell mentioned the Voter Turnout Action Network. Lindsay Rodriguez also talked about it. It's at UTSA's College of Public Policy. It came about because of the SA2020 goals, right? They said we need to get more work around a particular indicator, and they started that one off. And then finally, Gene Russell also mentioned the Talent Pipeline Task Force, which actually SA2020 is standing up. If you want to speak more specifically to the goals, because there's several that one's tackling.
So the Talent Pipeline Task Force came out of the sense that the nexus of education and economic competitiveness was a real challenge for our community. One of the things we're seeing in the data is that there's some tremendous great energy in education and investment in our community. We've seen real improvement on high school graduation, which for a long time was an issue we really struggled with in our community, but we're not seeing that same kind of baton pass to college attainment. So we're not seeing production of certificates, 2-year and 4 degrees, the way we need to be competitive at the global stage. So how do we crosswalk the need for post-secondary completion to the needs of industry? So we've taken the targeted industries identified in SA2020, and we're really looking at what are their needs and how can we work more effectively with our educational institutions to focus on some of those demands in our economy.
It's the idea, again, that data begins the story, but we need some strategies, clear-cut strategies that are working towards moving that data into a space that's better, right, for our city. Finally, we also engage the public. So utilizing the data that we're seeing, we try to, A, make data relevant to a person. I think Lee Fisher, I'm going to start making your all one word too. Lee Fisher, CEO of CEOs for Cities. You have to say it all together. That's nice. Said it best. It's like, it's really difficult to sort of say, we're going to decrease poverty by 9 bajillion %, or can we talk about 1%? And in fact, we talk a lot about can you be one person, right? If one person couples with one person who couples with one person, all of a sudden we're starting to see more happening, right? And engaging the public, we heard a little bit about Enroll SA, Get Bear Covered. We also helped with some communications around Destination College, which was this fantastic, again, collaboration. Many of you are in the room from that as well, for a whole week of college-going activities. And more specifically, really driving individuals and companies to start making very clear movement with organizations who are doing things to move the needle on SA2020 indicators, right? There are 89 current partners along with SA2020 who are working every single day on indicators that are within our vision. And we try to drive volunteerism, philanthropic giving, even organizations themselves who are working around redesigning programs and looking at how they are affecting indicators. So we engage the public there as well. And I think the best way for us to say it is it kind of is going to take a lot of people to make SA2020 real.
Molly, here's how I'd say it. I think, data is part of the story, but every good story needs great actors. And you all are the actors in this drama. Every one of you, your partners in different way. We have lead partners in the room, we have action networks in the room, we have funders in the room. We need the actors to drive the drama of this story and take us to our SA2020 vision.
That's a fantastic way of saying it. I don't really understand the idea of theater, though, so. That's like a little inside joke between us, maybe. Real quick, we do have a room full of people, and we wanted to sort of show you who is actually making movement here in just this room. And then we would like to also give a shout out to District 4 and District 10 watch parties. I know you're there, so shout out to them. You're there as well. Well, you can play along online if you're sitting at your desk. Thank you to Nowcast for that. If you're at your desk or on your couch in your pajamas, I'm going to join you soon. you can play along. So we know for a fact at SA2020 that it takes many, many players to make this happen. In fact, we know for a fact that policy is a very important driver.
Yeah, in fact, policy has been a real great strategy, and we forgot to talk about this one, but I think one of the best examples of policy is what we've seen in downtown housing. So downtown housing has moved specifically because of city incentives have really sparked the market, and I think a real question for the policymakers in the room, and there are many, is what's the next thing we can tackle with policy? So policy really does drive outcomes.
Excellent.
So shout out to the policymakers in the
Yeah,
room.
if you are a policy maker, or perhaps work in a city office that helps with policy, would you please stand up? I know you're here.
You're a
You think I won't
policymaker.
come get you, but I know you are. Stay standing for a minute. Stay standing for me.
Gloria Hurtado.
We all know all you city folk. I'm going to come over to your table, Gloria Hurtado. Stand up.
Walsh.
I'll call you right out. I know your names. I know where you work. Excellent. We know that policy is very, very important. Stay standing for me. We also know that funding is very important. If you work for a funder, a philanthropist, or a corporation that is capable of giving money to organizations who are moving the needle, please stand up. People aren't going to ask you for money right now. Stand up. Gordon Hartman Harvey, stand it up. I know where you are. Stay standing for me. All right. If you work in a nonprofit organization who is moving the needle on SA2020 indicators, stand up for us. Work it out. I dig it. I dig it. Tony Van Buren, why are you sitting? Stand up. All right, excellent. Now, if you are, let's say, an individual who has time, energy, talent, money, if you can be one person who makes a difference on SA2020 indicators, and that would be the rest of you sitting right on down, get yourselves standing up right now. So, there are about 330 of you in this room. I don't know how many are watching online, but a lot. I'm going to say a lot. Can you imagine if every single person left this room or left their watch party or got up out of their desk today and said, I'm going to do something that relates to SA2020 measures and actually move the needle on the indicator that is most important to me, in my soul, how much change could happen just from today? Yeah? So you have been anointed. You are officially an ambassador for SA2020, and we want you to go forth. But before you do that, have a seat. We want to tell some stories of some people who are really, really making some amazing change here in San Antonio.
All you have to do is have a really big heart.
I do it because I have a great love for books, and I want children to have that same curiosity and anticipation and excitement about reading.
I support children through the court system. Our goal is to get them to a permanent, safe, stable home. For Lily, just being a part of watching her grow up and then finding her permanent family and it being these beautiful people that she lives with now, it's a blessing.
I come to the school regularly and have a second grader that I read with. It's critical because if they don't learn to read adequately, then they start falling behind.
SACE is an out-of-school arts education program. Students get exposed to this incredible opportunity to create, to become artists, develop into artists as their own right, and they don't pay a penny. So I just went online trying to figure out the best way to volunteer for them, and SA2020 gave me that avenue to volunteer at SACE.
I feel like As a person, I'm more confident in what I do, what I'm capable of, and as an artist, this kind of like just let me channel that kind of creative energy.
About a year ago is when I did volunteer with SAC, and since then I've been hired. The event that I volunteered at, I'm now helping plan. I feel so lucky that I had that opportunity to kind of see what SAC was, and then now I get to be a part of it as a staff member, not just as a volunteer.
In CASA, by 2020, we want to service 100% of the children who come into foster care. It's going to take about double the volunteers by 2020 to reach our goal. Don't think of it as 500 volunteers that we need. Think of it as one person can make a very big difference.
I see San Antonio in 2020 as having children who are growing into adults much better readers. And that means that they're going to speak better, they have better control of the language, and they are going to just be better advanced in whatever career they choose.
One volunteer makes a difference. That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out today. SA 2020 Progress, make sure you take all of the things that are on your table, including your cup. Patty Radel came back and said, do not forget to tell them that cup is yours to take with you. SA2020.org/progress. Go do something that affects someone. Be the one to move the needle. Thank you very much.